So here's a question. If emotions create behavior change and stories create emotions, why aren't we using more stories in business? And so I wondered about that. And I wondered, is it the word story? Does it conjure up thoughts of tales and at worst lies? Is it that most businesses operate on P&L spreadsheets, their own jargon, and stories don't lend themselves well to jargon? And I came to the conclusion that actually the reason is that we simply don't have a very easy method for creating them. So what I did is I went back over my history. I started life as a journalist. I learned to find and tell other people's stories. I then went to work in television and radio where I crafted stories and worked with some amazing talent, including people like Tim Burton, and helping create stories. I then went on to work in advertising and marketing where I helped brands tell their stories, the likes of Microsoft and Google make their products that just weren't very tangible using stories. And now I help other brands from my own agency find and tell their story. So I went back all over all of that good stuff and thought, wouldn't it be great if I could just filter all that down into a very simple process? Well, I'm not here to tell you stories today. I'm here to show you how to create them. And I did. I boiled it all the way down. And I boiled it down into this book that's available on Amazon and Amazon Kindle. That's the plug. I've got some copies here. If anyone would like a copy, just put your hand up, and I'll give you a copy right now. I've got some here. There's a copy. There's a copy. There's a copy. And there's a copy. There's a copy. So I boiled it all the way down. The book's not very thick, which is good news, because Dummies have also released a guide to help you put together your story, and it's 380 pages long. It's a bit too much for us to really remember what's happened at the beginning. So I've boiled it down into this process. The process is very simple. The process goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It goes the 5 W's, the 4 P's, the 3 acts, the 2 states, and the 1 killer headline that you need. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Should we work through it? Here we go. 5, the 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, why of your story. If I've got time, I'll tell you a very quick story to help put that into context. We'll do that. The year's 1827. The place is Washington, D.C. An artist working away from his home receives a knock at his door in the small hours. It's a messenger on a horse. He opens the message. It says, "Your dear wife is convalescent." The artist immediately mounts his own horse and rides the 300 miles to Connecticut. He hardly stops, just enough to keep his horse alive. He rides solid through the night, solid through the day, 300 miles on horseback to Connecticut. When he gets there, his wife is not only dead, she's been buried. The man is completely distraught. If only there was a faster way to get a message to him, he could have been with his wife in those last moments. That man then went about inventing a means of rapid communication, and his name is Samuel Morse, the inventor of the Morse code. There's a little story. Let's break it down. Who is it about? Samuel Morse. What happened? Well, he was working away from home as an artist, and he received this call, knock at the door, and his wife was sick, and when he got home, unfortunately, she'd already been buried, and that sent to motion him inventing Morse code. When was this? Oh, the year was 1827. Where was it? Oh, it was between Washington, D.C. and Connecticut. Why? Why did he invent Morse code? Well, because he didn't want anyone to suffer the same way he did again. That's about as much information as you need to collect when you're doing the who, what, why, when, where. And it doesn't matter what the story is. This could be your vision story. This could be your next pitch story. Why should we choose you as the agency? This could be what your one of your customer stories. This could be the story of a customer journey as they go through the buying process. Any one of those stories just captured a who, what, when, where, why. that doesn't give you the story, that just gives you the raw ingredients. We now need to go to the 4 Ps. The 4 Ps are the things that people are interested in. There we go. But they don't always admit it. The 4 Ps are princes, purses, places, and pets. A prince is anyone or anything you can explain, well, you can say, but you don't need to explain. Google is a prince. David Beckham is a prince. We don't need to explain who they are. Purses. We're a nation obsessed with money. High numbers, low numbers. Winning it, losing it. Making it, we want to hear about it. Big numbers, small numbers. We're a country interested in purses. Places. Places are important. Places are important to the individual. The places we were born. The places we went to school. The places we go to work. And sometimes places can just conjure up images in our mind. Christmas in New York, a Caribbean sunset, an evening in Paris. We don't need to say much more than that, and we get the image. Princes, purses, places, pets. You now go back over your 5 Ws to see if any of those are in there. And of course, I don't think I need to talk to a room full of people that understand the internet about the power of pets. I'm getting some nods there. We love our pets usually more than our own flesh and blood. we let them sleep in our beds, and we feed them better food than we feed ourselves. So pets are, of course, incredibly important. If there's a pet in your story, then bring it out. Now, we've dug around in those 5 Ws, and we've found some good stuff that's going to resonate with the audience. Now what we need to do is set it out into a story. And a story is set out very simply in 3 acts. Act 1, the problem or the obstacle. It needs something in the first act to get it all moving. The problem that Samuel Morse had was he'd received a letter saying his wife was convalescent. So what is the problem? Find the problem, the obstacle that needs to be overcome. In Act 2, you can then start to deal with the conflict, the challenge. The challenge for Morse, the first challenge, was actually getting home 300 miles on horseback. But you, when you do your vision story, or your customer story, or your why choose us as an agency, would have had some conflicts along the way. And Act 3 is, what did we learn from going through that conflict and struggle? How did we change as a result of doing that? And that's really powerful, because that's why people then want to engage with you, is what you've learned, what you can now offer, having been through those conflicts and struggles. So you take your 5 Ws now and you start layering it in there. What's the problem? What's the conflict and struggle? And what's the result? What did we learn from that? 2 is the 2 states. The 2 states are the emotion you're going to add to your story now. You go to Act 2 in that conflict area, and you look at what was up must come down. What was down must come up. What was on now goes off. And you'll look at this conflict, you'll see that's naturally what happens. Look at the launch of take a story of someone who launches a new business. They have this idea, brilliant, it's all up, got this brilliant idea for a business. They go to get some money, the banks say no. They go to some friends, the friends say yes. They spend the money and they can't get a product to work. They get a product to work and no one wants to buy it. It is a journey, a roller coaster journey of up and down. You take the middle section, the Act 2, and you put in there, you make sure that things are going up to where they're supposed to go and then come back down to where they're supposed to go. Now you watch any film and you'll see that that's what it's doing all the way through that middle section. Guy meets girl, bing, all good. All of a sudden, one of them slamming a door and storming out the room. All bad. Up, down, on, off, good, bad, love, hate. And once you've peppered that through the second act, you're now ready with your story. Now, when we stand up and tell a story, we don't need to use a headline, but of course online we've got subject lines and etc. we can use to help bring people toward the story. So that's where you need your one last thing, your one killer headline. Now, when I was studying to be a journalist, one of the things they did at the BBC to avoid having to train us too hard was to send us off to other places to learn. And they sent us off to the Guardian newspaper. And we got to spend a day with the editor. And the editor talked us through how they put a newspaper together. And just off the cuff, he said to me, and then the last thing we do is we come up with a headline, but that's easy, there's only 3 types of headline. And I was like, excuse me? I've seen thousands of headlines. Can there be only one, only three types of headline? He said, there's only 3 types. There is the promise headline, as in, I'll make you rich, cure for baldness found. That's a promise headline. Yeah. There is the intrigue headline. Man bites dog. And there is the news headline, as defined as new and interesting. And that's something like humans land on Mars, or the king is dead. You take your headline and you make sure it's either a promise, an intrigue, or news. And you shape it that way. And then all you're left to do is to set your story free. So I hope that if you take one thing away from this talk today, it's that stories are powerful. And even though they're all different, they operate in a universal framework, and that any one of us can create them and use them to connect with our audience. Thank you.